well-being of the country, which security really revolves around, we should be able, and we will be able, members, to make the necessary laws, to provide the necessary regulation, and if need be, to provide some prescriptions to deal with situations. I probably may not be able to say what the prescriptions are at this stage, because it's a matter of national security. But I have no doubt in myself that I'm up to the task. Remember, members, that the hospitality industry, which I come from, is one of the industries that is heavily dependent on security. And that in itself makes it very clear to me how important security is to our country. I am committed to create a Kenya where Kenyans are able to go through their business, the businesses of the day, their lives, without turning back and worrying and say, am I secure? Where the international investors can proudly put their money into our country, and a country we can all be proud of, that we inherited from our forefathers. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Lenku, we will take first 5 questions, not in any particular order, but from various members. Start from Honorable Jamle Kamau, Majority Leader, Honorable Wamalwa, Honorable Major Mulufi, and finally Honorable Kaiseri, General.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you, Lenku, for that nomination. I have 2 concerns that perhaps I'm sure if you get them well, you'll be able to respond appropriately. The first one revolves around the violence in some parts of some counties in Western Kenya. I'm sure you are aware that there's some serious violence going on in some parts of Western Kenya. I would like to know what you think are the root causes of this violence. Are they political? And how you intend to actually address this problem, because it is a serious problem that can actually degenerate into chaos in this country. The second issue revolves around the Inspector General of Police, the National Police Service Commission. You know there is a row between these 2 offices. The Inspector General of Police complaining about his powers, he doesn't have enough powers. The National Police Service Commission talking about the Constitution vests all those powers that the IG seeks to have. My issue is, how are you going to address the problem between these 2 offices? And what, in your opinion, do you think the IG needs to do so that it can be as effective and efficient as possible, so that he can be able to address the ills affecting this country in matters security? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And on the onset, I want to thank Lenku. Wish you well in your nomination for this docket. Now, I have one question, a very important question. One of your docket is the registration of persons services. And I want you to answer this question. There are many Kenyans who do not have identity cards, despite attaining the legal age. This has been a problem over the years. What will you do as a new cabinet secretary in a new dispensation coming from outside? What will you do to hasten this process and make sure every Kenyan at the age of 18 years will access an affordable, efficient identity card?
Chris Omano.
Thank you. Congratulations for the nomination, Bwana Olemba. One of your key roles is national government coordination at county levels. Currently, you are aware about the rivalry between the governors and the regional commissioners at the county level. Article 1 of the Constitution is very clear in terms of the sovereignty of this nation. You look at governors, they were elected by the people. And yet, the regional commissioners, who are declared by the courts to be illegal in office, how are you going to manage this harmonious existence of the two, especially at the county level? Thank you.
Major Muluvi.
I have three questions, clarifications I want to get from you. One, I want to know from you, do you see the current organizational structure where the National Police Commission and the Office of the Inspector General, in terms of their functions? Because this, in my view, has something to do with the morale of the force. If the very basic things which involve HR, like promotion, if promotion will be done by a commission outside the purview of the inspectorate, if transfers are going also to be done by the commission outside, because you transfer people because of their competencies, because of their qualifications, and then if you want to improve efficiency. I would want to know what linkage is there between the inspectorate and the commission, so that otherwise this can affect the overall operation of the force. That is one comment I want to hear from you. The other thing is, do you still need, if you get into the office, to have the Police Act and the AP Act? Since now the Inspector General is in charge, I have in mind the way the unified commands or the centralized commands operate. Like we have CAP 199, which of the Kenya Armed Forces, where the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Constabulary, and even the reserves operate from. And because they are a centralized command, I would imagine, having now brought the APs and the regular police and other security, internal security organs together, I want to hear your comment, whether you think there is need to harmonize those acts so that you can strengthen the centralized command, so that the Inspector General can have the teeth to operate. That is the second question. The third question, sorry. I just want to hear from you, because I may not get another opportunity, that you have come from a pastoralist background. Pastoralist conflict has been a major issue, and more often a lot of blame has been also hooked into provincial administration who are siding with this clan and this one. I think you are in a better position. I would want to hear your comment on how you think you can quell that. Thank you.
And finally, that was from a major. Now finally from a general, but don't worry, they are both retired. General Kaiseri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lenku, first of all, let me comment and congratulate you for being nominated to this position. I just want to know two issues. If you are confirmed in this position, and mind you, this is a vetting session. Now, in our country today, it has not been very clear the disaster and emergency response policy. If you are confirmed in this position, what are you going to do to enhance this very, very important area? Secondly, the issue of cattle rustling has really been a problem in Kenya. And the problem of this has been caused by the menace of small and light weapons. What are you going to do to ensure that citizens, especially pastoralists, are disarmed so that this issue of cattle rustling will come to an end?
Well, now Mr. Lenku, you may respond.
Chairman, honorable members, I would like to go to the question of Honorable Jamle Kamau on the issue of violence in Western Kenya and whether it is politically instigated. My comment with that about that is that yes, there is violence that has occurred in Western Kenya. We have a machinery. There's a machinery in government using the intelligence services to establish what is the cause of the violence we faced, not only in Western Kenya, but any violence-related activities in the country. My take is, once we have established the root cause of the violence, or anything that destabilizes the well-being of our country, there is a law or laws to govern how we handle that. We will apply the law without fear or favor, and we will not allow an individuals, groups, or a community to destabilize our well-being for all Kenyans. So for that, we will use the necessary machinery to establish the root cause of that. And once we know the root cause, we use the hand of the law to deal with it. With regards to the Inspector General and the National Police Service Commission, yes, it is in public domain that this is a struggling department. And just for purposes of members to note, when you approve my nomination, this is my priority point, the police. But going to the specific issue of the Inspector General and the National Police Service Commission, it appears from the briefings and what I've seen that there could be some overlaps in the law governing the two offices. We will come back to you to seek the necessary rectification of the law, because as in good principles of management, you can only take orders from one point. So our police will be at difficulty not knowing whether to deal with the commission or to deal with the Inspector General. So for that, I will immediately, when your approval comes through, constitute the necessary stakeholders very quickly, because this must be brought to rest. It is undermining our security. The crooks are taking advantage of the confusion, and we will not allow this to continue. It must come to an end, and come to an end yesterday. So it is something that we will use the law, we will use the stakeholders like the Commission on the Implementation of the Constitution. I also realize that this task was being done at some point by the Public Service Commission. So we have a point of reference. We can refer to the Public Service Commission to know how it was being done without much conflict. We are not short of institutions headed by commissions. We have the Parliamentary Service Commission, which has an institution it governs and has the leadership in place. We have the Judicial Service Commission, and therefore the National Police Service Commission is not a unique commission. We have a wide range of areas to borrow from to make sure that we do the right thing. The point is, it is the national security that supersedes everything. It's not going to be about individuals. It is the security of our country that takes precedence above all. But again, I want to reiterate that if we find some non-clear issues within the law, we'll bank on your good support. Going to Honorable Duale's question on the registration of person and many Kenyans without identity cards. That is a concern to Kenyans when they reach the mandatory age to have the IDs and they don't have. It is also important for me to highlight that this is a right. It is the rights of the citizens. It is the rights of the citizens to have this service. I wish, however, to highlight that we have important consideration when undertaking that task. Remember, when an individual or a person is bestowed the citizenship of Kenya, it comes with a lot of responsibility to the country in terms of subsidized services, education, and many other services that we provide to Kenyans. And therefore, we ought to be very careful to make sure that we do not overload our social system. That notwithstanding, it is no reason for the services not to be done expeditiously. I will make sure that the officers responsible for this are on clear performance contract targets that must be achieved within a specified period. So that the vetting, and I know this is a challenge in the counties that border our neighbors. We want to protect our country by not allowing non-citizens to enjoy the services of citizens. And therefore, we will definitely encourage the vetting to make sure that we have the right people, but that should not disadvantage the communities neighboring within the borders of our country. And therefore, the point will be, if it requires us to be registering people when they are finishing school, we will do that. If there will be need for us to carry mobile registration, we will do that. And we will provide those who are Kenyans in those areas with the services almost the same time that we provide the other citizens. So it is something that I recognize it's important. It is actually good that immigration and registrations and all these have been put into one docket so that the people, the security system can assist the immigration and registration of persons to support one another so that they are not seen as two departments other than two ministries. Actually, this will fast track the process. I would like to go to Honorable Wamalua's question on the national government coordination touching on the issue of governors and county commissioners. Honorable members, on Schedule 4 of our Constitution, the schedule stipulates the functions of the national government and the function of the county government. His Excellency the President has in many occasions reiterated the government commitment to devolution. It is a commitment that we are committed to. It is a decision of the citizens. It is supported by the government, and I will support personally the devolution process. I also want to realize, to highlight that the national government have duties to be done on the grassroots. And the work of our county commissioners is basically to coordinate those services and absolutely have nothing to do with the interference of governance at the county level. And I think this is very clear. And we should actually not burden ourselves with the concern whether there is an issue, because in my opinion, it is very clearly stipulated. We are committed at every level. The presidency is very clear on it. And it is not a problem. It is actually the county commissioners' work will be just to make sure that they provide the services that the national government is supposed to provide to the people. When we look at the issues of cohesion, we look at the issues of disaster management, which I will come to later on, and we look at the issues on the ground that we are supposed to do at the national government, you clearly will see that there is need for these county commissioners and the machinery beneath them to be able to execute that work, but has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with governance. I wish to go to Honorable Muluvi's 3 questions on the issue of the organizational structure, on the National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police, and whether it is affecting the morale, and whether who should do the transfer, the promotion and all that. Members, again, we want to revisit the acts that govern this. When you go to Article 243 242, 43, and 44 of the Constitution, they stipulate the roles of these offices. Again, I had indicated earlier on that it is an area that is my priority. It is an area that requires clarity, and which we will seek the support of the National Assembly, and we seek the support of the other stakeholders to make sure that there are no overlaps. Because we must enable our police to do their work in an environment that is conducive to do their work, while expecting them to be accountable and responsible for their action. They also must be facilitated. This came out very strongly in the presidential speech on Madaraka Day, that the government is allocating substantial resources to that department to make sure that our police are motivated, have the necessary tools, and an enabling environment for them to deliver their mandate. With regards to the Police Act, whether there is need for the Police Act and the Administration Police Act in the new development of one national police service, that is a legal matter that can be harmonized by the expert in that area. Coming from a pastoralist, that is question number 3 by Honorable Muluvi, coming from a pastoralist and a conflict community and the clan rivalry, and how I will handle this. This actually, the fact that I come from a pastoralist background is a strength for my nomination into this docket, because I fully understand the concerns, while also recognizing that I'm also a Nairobian, so I understand the challenges of this place. That make me a man of two worlds. So that actually works well for our security situation. I think when it comes to the conflict and the rivalry between clans, this is where we find the usefulness of our the coordination by the county commissioners and the necessary machinery to build peace and bring cohesion and bring the communities together to make sure that there is harmonious existence in our communities. And therefore, we will deepen this, we will bring the stakeholders to the table, and we will also not be impartial, but we will recognize the role stakeholders have on this build peace, cohesion and peace building at the grassroots to enable us to have a harmonious society. Mr. Chairman, honorable members, I want to go to the question asked by Honorable Ngaiseri on disaster management, and I'll come later to the issue of cattle rustling and small arms. With regards to disaster management in our country, members, you appreciate that this is one area that we have not done very well. Disaster response management. This is because we actually do not have a coherent policy. We don't have a clear guiding act to this. This function is currently being done as an administrative function. Already, I'm aware the ministry has prepared a bill and the necessary framework to have this area strengthened and properly coordinated. What this means is that we will have a central point where disaster management will be coordinated. Disaster can be in the form of floods, can be in form of organized crimes, can even be in the form of drugs and related problems. And this central body, or this central point, guided by an act of parliament with a clear policy, will be able to identify what to call when which disaster strike. Because you will need a different response for drought as opposed to flood and as opposed to drugs and all that. So I am very, very clear that this is an area that requires strengthening, and I will use the expertise of my able staff whom I have met to deliver this when honorable members you approve this nomination. I I want to go to the issue of cattle rustling. Cattle rustling, like any other crime, is a criminal offense. I made it very clear from my earlier vision, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, that we will have a prescription for the same. What the prescription is, we'll handle when we get there. But I want to emphasize that anything that destabilizes the well-being of our country, security deals with the well-being of the country. You can actually look at security like the human body. When the human body has a neck, whether it is the head or something must be done because the body cannot move, or the body will not be at peace when there is a neck. When we have anything ailing our national well-being, be it cattle rustling, be it poaching, be it a drought or a disaster of any kind, we will use the necessary laws, we will use the necessary government machinery to make sure that our state well-being is protected and safeguarded. I thank you, Chairman, and I invite the next set of questions.
Very well. The next set of questions will come in the following order. One from the Honorable Moses Cheboy, Deputy Speaker, Leader of Minority. Now, how many are those? Three. Those are three. David Wafula and Gatobu.
Thank you, Chairman. I really want to revisit a certain question raised by my colleagues earlier, which, in my opinion, I need to really get some clarity. And this is a tough wars between the Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. Because I really want to know from you, who takes, let me not say the credit, who takes the blame? Who would take the blame if there is insecurity in Kenya? Is it the Inspector General of Police or the Police Service Commission? And I say this because there is a lot of, there is opinion, and I don't know whether you agree with it, that sometimes the Police Service Commission actually micromanages the police. Because going to details of promotions, even of very junior police officers, I think in my mind is undoubtedly a micromanagement. And of course, sometimes you also see we have problems with insecurity countrywide. And when you find some of the commissioners, they move around with a retinue of police officers. And sometimes even when they go around town, they create jam. Because they have to, there's some organization has to be made for traffic for them to travel around. Don't you think, or would it be correct? And what is your opinion about it? Because personally, I would feel that first we are putting a lot of effort into protecting some commissioners. And in fact, in my own opinion also, I think it would have been better if we made the commissioners part-time and give them some issue of policies, not micromanagement. What is your opinion on that? Because it is something that has to come out. Probably the issue of insecurity countrywide is because of this conflict. What is your opinion in terms of that? And I congratulate you for your appointment.
Nominations.
Sorry.
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I also want to take the opportunity to congratulate Mr. Lenku for your nomination.
Thank you.
And mine is really a question of, again, going back to your suitability for this position. I realize, and I'm sure you realize yourself, the enormity of the task that has been put before you. You are probably the most wanted person at the moment, and I'm sure you had even the president in his Madaraka Day speech saying, can you get over very quickly with the vetting of these candidates because you are required like yesterday. My issue is, do you realize the enormity of the task before you? Do we see What do we see in that ministry in the next 5 years? Have you taken time to think about what is the task that you have before you? I think that's what I would like you to handle.
Thank you. Leader of Minority.
Thank you, Chair. Congrats for your nomination, Joseph Lenku. Mine is on persons with disability and the old age, people who are above 65 years old, because your docket deals with the protection and advocacy for their rights. For the people who are 65 years old and above, they've been suffering in silence, and especially in remote, poor regions of this country. Some have been retired from civil service, others from wherever, and others as farmers. These are people who are vulnerable, they are sickly and confined, and sometimes they die very miserable deaths. And especially those who live in areas where there is drought, northern Kenya, parts of eastern coast, and many other places in Kenya, including central and western Kenya, because of poverty. They fall in the same category with the people, persons with a disability. Parliament has tried to take action to make a stipend, some kind of payment of 2,000, which has not worked well. Now, if we vet you and you get this job, I wanted to know what will be your position. What actions will you take? Because these are people who have no strength left, and in their last days here on earth, we want them to age with dignity and not to die in a miserable way, where they are poor, children are also unemployed and poor, they cannot help them, and in most cases they are forgotten by the rest of Kenyans. It's an area that I feel very strongly as a minister, and as you come from a pastoral community, you understand what I'm talking about. It's an area where I want, if you are lucky to get this, to put a lot of emphasis trying to allocate, trying to get care of those poor, sickly, who have less strength, as you look at the people with disability. That's an area I just want to appeal to you, not to forget, but put it in the forefront. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Olelengu, let me also say hongera for having been appointed to that token. But looking at your documents, even though you have attached the affidavit, I can see no less than 3 documents with different names. I'm just wondering why you decided to apply this kind of arrangements, or rather filing only later to swear an affidavit. 2, in the recent past, we have had waves of crimes and murders in various parts of our country. Do you think the police have done enough to handle the situation? Also, what measure are you going to undertake to ensure that police are more of preventative than reactive? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I wish to congratulate Mr. Olelenku on his nomination to this cabinet docket. And I really like your credentials in the line of business, the strategic management and the marketing option. And you've seen what the people from the schools you've come from have done to this nation. and especially in the business approach. They've done master plans for marketing companies and such things. I would wish to know what is your overall strategy for the docket that you're taking 5 years down the line. What would we say that is a master plan that Mr. Lenku brought to his docket that has changed immensely this cabinet position? What can he be remembered for? Like the founding fathers came with Arambe, we have many other things, we have cabinet people remember for certain things and what they did. What is your overall strategy that you would wish to bring with a lot of energy in this cabinet position? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lenku.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, honorable members. Allow me to start with Honorable Cheboy's question on my position with regard to the National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General. I had indicated earlier on that the police department is my priority number one. I had also made a comment to the effect that the task force could be undermining our security and causing the current situation. It is very clear in my mind, Chairman, honorable members, that this is something that must be resolved urgently. I said it is my number one priority. I would not probably want to say who is right or wrong at this juncture, but I want to reiterate that we have a lot of places to refer to when it comes to making a decision on this matter. I gave the example of our judiciary. I gave the example of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I gave even to the effect that how was the Public Service Commission handling this function. And therefore, I want to assure members that I'm even privy to the effect that some law, the ministry is working on some laws to harmonize some overlaps. But my commitment to you, to the country, is that this will be resolved very, very soon. And so I want to request Kenya not to worry about it anymore. And I want to say that it is coming to an end sooner than you may think. Thank you. Madam Deputy Speaker, Honorable Laboso, with regard to my suitability, my mind is very clear that I'm up to the task. I reiterate my gratitude to His Excellency, the President, for picking me among the very many options he had for this. I want to assure Kenyans that I have the necessary education for that matter. I have the integrity that goes with the office of this magnitude. And I have the necessary resources in terms of the know-how, the laws, the backing of the technical staff, and even the goodwill of His Excellency the President. His commitment to security, you could see that it is very, very high. The resources allocated, resources has been an issue before. And my commitment to prudent use of resources as a business manager to make sure that the resources allocated to this area are put into the right use is critical. We have noted that a lot of resources is now being allocated to provide tools, to provide a working environment for the police, and to provide all that it takes to this. I am committed to make sure that these resources are put into the most optimal use to deliver our security. So I give my assurance that I have the necessary credentials as a Kenyan to do the job. I also have the passion. You know, it is such a privileged position to have a chance to serve your country at this level. I will give it my all. With regard to where do I see this ministry in the next 5 years? This ministry covers internal security. It covers the Home Affairs docket and immigration and registrations of person. I have a vision that we will have a healthy country with regard to security matters. Our police department will have been properly, the reforms will have taken shape, the tools will have been provided, the staff terms will have been looked, and therefore I see in 5 years we'll have a motivated police force. I also see in 5 years that we will have brought all Kenyans to recognize that security is the responsibility of all Kenyans. We will do this through transparent processes in our community policing. We will use the committees up to the level of the chief of the division to make sure that the communities are involved in making sure that they have a role to play in this. Members, I also want to bring to light the county policing authority, which is chaired by the governor. This is an authority at the county level that bring all the civilian stakeholders into security matters. These are the people that will determine the security needs of a county. And therefore, the work of the county commissioner will be to use the information provided by the county policing authority, the civilian body that brings all the stakeholders to identify their needs. Ours is the national government using the county security committee headed by the county commissioner will execute what the people have identified as their needs. So I see in the future a security situation where all Kenyans are committed to the well-being of their country. I also see in 5 years a situation where our registration of persons have been streamlined and integrated third generation registration system, where using an identification certificate we are able to identify and to know the individual up to the criminal aspect, the individual in totality. This system will integrate very well with our data for providing the necessary intelligence information to our intelligence gathering arm to be able to monitor the movement of people. So I foresee a situation where we will not have complaints that I'm 18 and I don't have an ID card, that my ID card is taking several months to process, that criminals are infiltrating or coming into our system without our intelligence noticing it. I foresee a situation in 5 years where we have used modern technology. We have used modern technology to monitor our porous borders. Honorable members, the border of Kenya and Somalia is over close to 700 kilometers. It's actually 680 kilometers, and we only have 2 immigration posts. That is a very small coverage. The Ethiopia one is about 780 kilometers border between Kenya and Ethiopia. Again, it has 2 entry points. That is not sufficient money. My concentration will not be very much to do with opening several border posts, but to use technology. To make sure that even from Nairobi, we are seeing what is happening in every corner of our country. It is the same technology, honorable members, that we want to use to even monitor aspects of cattle rustling. That I give a word to those who practice that is unnumbered. Because we will use modern technology to track their movement, we will see even before they strike. And therefore, I see in 5 years a situation where cattle rustling will be a story to be told in school, not something practiced by modern Kenyans. I see a situation in 5 years, honorable members, where our system, using the police system and intelligence, the drug trafficking is controlled. Because we will have the necessary tools to monitor that. I noticed that in one of the projects for Vision 2030 for the ministry is to have forensic lab. Instead of us having our security issues analyzed in some advanced laboratories in the UK or advanced countries, the African continent will be coming to Kenya to look at the Kenyan forensic laboratories to do their job. This will not become a revenue generating center, but also become a point for us to monitor our security. Honorable Aposo, that is what I see in 5 years for this country. I want to come to the question by Honorable Nyense on persons with disability.
Mr. Lenku, just 1 second. The Honorable Nyense would want to make some slight clarification.
Thank you.
Because he realized about the docket matters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realized that does not fall within your docket, but I just wanted to reserve so that I ask a question later, but you don't need to answer the question I had asked you, because it doesn't fall within the Interior Ministry.
Can I move on to the next question?
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Honorable Wafula, the names in documents, in my documents, as you have noted, one of my certificate has Joseph Mpa, another one has Joseph Lenku, and there's Jama somewhere. Honorable members, this is an interesting one because it brings the issue of how disadvantaged some Kenyans' background can be. When members you look at some of the pastoralist community, they are going to school actually for a long time has been a government order, not a decision of their parents. And when you are taken to school, normally schools are very far from where you operate, so you are taken to a boarding school at tender age and ask your name. I know some people, actually when I went to school and I was asked, what is your name? I say my name is Jama. Actually my name is Jama. I was named after my father's friend, Ahmed Jama. But when I was asked, what is your name? I say my name is Jama. Your father's name? I say my father's name is Chief. You know, my father was a senior chief. So I knew everybody was, there's no parent to represent me to say really who I am. And therefore, no, not Chief. What is the other name? I say Chief in Kimasai now, you know. So by the time some of these communities get to realize who you are, you have gone very far because there's nobody guiding that process. However, it is important to mention that the names as indicated in the IDs are correct because as per my birth certificate, my name is Joseph Jama. I acquired my Joseph when I converted to my Christian faith, and my mother gave me Jama. My father is Lenku Olempa, and naturally I adopt the Lenku as per our tradition. So those names are correct. You can verify that my father is Lenku Olempa, and therefore when you see Joseph Mpa, and actually many of my industry colleagues refer to me as Olempa, it's a big name in Kajiado because he was a senior and highly respected chief. So I want to commit that that is a correct position. The affidavit I saw recently, I had one much earlier, so I just renewed it, Honorable Member.
Yeah, just before you leave this question, could I?
Yes, Abbas.
Yeah, I could understand the situation you explained to us perfectly in primary school. But then you went to, for your own levels, it's entirely different name. And then the name even changes at the college. So, you see, for your explanation, it's perfect for primary school. I completely understand that. I come from a similar background. But then Form 4, it's different. Didn't even finish Form 4, you go to Otali College, it's entirely different. And then the ID.
No.
Please give light on the secondary and the college.
No, honorable members, really, I have said that it's shown in my birth certificate, and I have the originals of all the documents just in case the members need to peruse. My personal name is Joseph Jama. My father's name is Lenku Olempa. Now, to use, as indicated in the college, Lenku Jama Mpa or Joseph Mpa, really I refer to the same thing, absolutely in good faith. So there is absolutely nothing fishy about it. Thank you very much. I move to the issue again by Honorable Wamalwa on the issue of waves of crimes and the police ability to handle this. One of the areas that we will strengthen with the new empowerment, remember I said earlier on, honorable members, that the commitment demonstrated by His Excellency the President to this department by the allocation of resources the ability of our police to deliver on their mandate, I will guarantee. Because we have been previously hampered by limited resources, and this is being addressed, we will absolutely have no excuse why we will not deliver security to Kenyans. Remember, the resources will also go into our intention to strengthen intelligent gathering, so that we become a proactive force rather than a reactive force. The government has the necessary machinery, and with the allocation of resources, I commit that the security situation will come to normalcy in the very near future, in a very short time. Honorable Gitobu wanted to know my strategy for this very important docket. We will map out as a team, because this is really a team undertaking, and all stakeholders, we will map out a clear path that we are going to follow, and we'll stick to it and use the resources we have for the same. On the same breath, we have the Vision 2030 that have identified some critical and very important projects that must be undertaken, including the CCTV cameras, the forensic laboratory, which I said earlier on will be very helpful to help us identify criminals and even use as an opportunity for other countries. Instead of us taking things outside the country, forensic laboratories will be done here. We will actually become a hub for that, so that Africa will be referring to Kenya as a place for this intelligence analysis. So my vision, as I had stipulated earlier, is to ultimately see a well-being, the totality well-being of our country, where the menace of drought, the menace of organized crimes, organized gangs, the menace of drugs, the menace of cattle rustling, the menace of poaching has been completely arrested. Again, I want to emphasize that I will rely on the very able team that is in the ministry to provide the technical know-how, as the top leadership provide the policy and the leadership necessary, which I will head if you approve this nomination. Thank you very much.
Another round. This time we start off from Mishi, Manson Nyamoya, Abbas Ement, Nelson Geshoye, and now let me see. You know, when you sit next to another person, I think it's only fair that we jump you, we go to the other one. Now, Geshoye is asking that the next one should be from leader of minority. Indeed, we'll start from the leader of minority now that he wants to ask his proper question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joseph Lenku. I just want to make a statement that the legislation in place is both inadequate and inappropriate to tackle crime in the country. The police fear to take action because of the reprisals, and that's why the crime has spiraled out of hand. My question is, what is your position on shoot to kill, on let's say capital punishment, the death sentence? Because if criminals know that I can commit a heinous crime and get away with it, they will continue doing that. I wanted to know your position on those. If a death threat was introduced, and if police reforms can be implemented to the letter, because the delay has caused. And as you answer that, the last one, the morale of the enforcement officers is very, very low. I passed through Kilimani police station and I sat on a chair that made me fall to the ground because it had only 3 legs instead of 4. And this is a very serious matter. And they told me that is the best. There are other places where you go to report in a police station and you stand throughout because there is nothing. Roofs are leaking, everything. Try to, what's your stand on that? Mishi.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Lenku, congratulations. I have 2 questions for you. My first question, I do understand that your docket, you're also in charge of drugs and narcotic substance. And we know our young generation, we are losing our young generation in this country. And it is alleged that most of the police officers, they know the drug baron, but they only arrest the end users or the victims. What are you going to do differently, or maybe unique measures are you going to put in place to ensure that you stop the police from chasing the squirrel rather than go for the antelope? My question number 2, procurement of security equipment has been riddled with a lot of corruptions. Just recently, the police acquired the bomb detectors, which we realized that they were useless gadgets. That was noted. What are you going to do in terms of stop of corruption in procurement, exaggerated cost, and necessary equipment purchase? Thank you.
Manson.
Thank you, Chair. Joseph, I'll ask a question. I think I'll go back. The Inspector General sits in the National Police Service Commission. What is it that is not able to bring to the National Police Commission so that he's able to do his job? Because he is trying to ask for personal powers, and yet there's a commission which should be able to work with it and help this country move forward. That's the first question, and I think I want us to give us your take on that. Number 2, you have come from the private sector background, even though Teresa Parastato. I want you to tell us whether when you entered and if you were nominated, you go through, did you leave the place at a profitable position? By the time, if you leave the place, did you leave it at a profitable position? Finally, there is this issue of procurement which is always talked about, whereby in most cases the security name is used, and these items are procured in an opaque manner. And that we know very well, it is against the Kenya not to know. But any country in the world, they buy these equipment from the same place, from the same manufacturer, be it Uganda, be it Tanzania, be it UK. Why can't you make it open? Because whoever's buying it, they know where they're buying it from. You cannot hide it saying it's security risk. There's no security risk here, because everybody are buying from the same market or from the same manufacturer. Those are the 3 questions.
Abbas. Thank you, Chair. Ole Lenkuli, Lenku, I also join my colleagues in congratulating you. I want to take you to the questionnaire you have filled, number 20, where it says you list the public offices you have held or are currently holding, and your answer to that is none. And my understanding was that Utali being a parastatal, any officer there is a public officer. Have you seen a copy of the? Number 2, on the same questionnaire again, 23, if you have seen the 20, you also asked to list the sources and amounts of all the income you have received the preceding year to your appointment. You have done well, you have listed the sources, but the amounts are not indicated. I don't know whether it's an oversight, whether it is a deliberate on your part not to let this committee know the amounts of your income. And finally, Mr. Lenku, I've listened to you very carefully all this time, and you have told us several, actually, I think around 12 or 13 times that you think you're up to the task. I've also looked at your background, and I've looked at the docket for which you are nominated. That possibly have, is it 26 departments or 26 functions? What I could call generally, half of the government is coming to you. And I want to be frank and say, up to this moment, in all the explanation you have done, I'm not yet convinced that you're the right man for this post. I want you to persuade me. One, come clear on your answers. Every question that has been put to you, your response was a generalized, to act specific for me, including even the causes of insecurity in somewhere like Western Kenya, which possibly took place immediately after the election. I thought if you had one brief meeting only with the minister, if you passed the minister for 5 minutes, which I'm sure you did and you alluded to, some of that thing will have been come out, so clearly. And what shocked even me was that the fact that you said you are going to rely 100% on the current personnel team there. Of course, you have to rely on them, but the fact that they are there and the level of insecurity in this country is alarming as it is, and the fact that you want to rely 100% on them for direction and technical advice, where does that take us as a country? And finally, our constitution now talks of the 24-hour detention. In your opinion, is it ideal to complete investigations of whatever magnitude within 24 hours? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. First, I want to congratulate you, Mr. Lenku, for being nominated. Michelle has asked my question on drug dealers. I want to tell you that former ministers have always developed cold feet when it comes to drug barons. And secondly, as we talk of drug barons, we also know that our youths are really affected by the illicit brews. And you deal with the provincial administration, who have even assistant chiefs to the last unit in the sub-location level. How are you going to deal with that? And also, you also give us your take on the hire instead of purchase in the motor vehicle that the president said when in his speech.
Naomi, last one.
Thank you, Chairman. I would want to also add my voice in congratulating you for being nominated to this docket. We have quite a number of issues where our neighbors are concerned. So on the international boundaries, because I can see it falls squarely in your docket, what are you going to do to make sure that you resolve some of the problems that we have with quite a number of our neighbors? People have deposited maps which do not reflect the true picture as per what we know about our boundaries. And in the past, all your predecessors have been dealing with this issue with, I would say, overcaution. They were overcautious in the sense that they did not want to face our neighbors and tell them the truth, that we will not have an inch of our soil being taken by any neighboring country. Do you think, Lenku, you have what it takes to actually deal with these neighbors who have really been misbehaving?
A small one coming from the Honorable Moses Cheboy.
Thank you, Chairman, for that indulgence. I just wanted to ask something which I forgot to ask you earlier. It's about the police, the terms of serving in the police. Policemen are, they really go under a lot of security risks. And an example is when there was a crash where our former minister, Saitoti, died. He was paid 10 million, probably plus other things. Then a policeman dies in the same crash, that is Ole Tonkei. He's paid 50,000 and probably some little stipends for what the time, the years he has served. What would you do when, if at all you are now veteran appointed, to make sure that the policemen and other security officers, the policemen, the people in the officers of prison, and so forth, have some good insurance package and are generally well taken care of? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lenku.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable members, I want to go to the question by Honorable Nyense on the legislation on inadequate, whether the legislation is inadequate and the repressal of police, the shoot-to-kill orders and all that. Members, I want to indicate that security changes with time. And even how the crooks play on security also changes with time. I would suggest that we make sure that our laws that govern this are in tandem with the times we are living in. Previously, the level of terrorism groups and gangs and all that was not as high as it is now. I foresee a situation where it gets more advanced. My take will be that we strengthen our laws so that the laws are able to deal with those advanced development on security matters. Because when we use inappropriate law to do some work, you can be assured that the job will not be done well. So my take will be, without going into deeper details whether to shoot or not, I will say that we'll have a correspondingly strong law to deal with a strongly advanced criminal acts. The morals of officers and the current state of our police working environment, including their offices and their waiting places. I am sorry, Honorable Sir, that you sat on a four-legged stool that is 3 and fell in the process. I pray that you're not injured. Sorry about it. What I want to say is that the commitment by His Excellency in terms of resources allocation to the police speaks volume of how much we are aware of the current state of the environment in which our police officers are working in. I had given my commitment earlier that the resources being allocated will be put into the right use, including making sure that they live in habitable condition, their own housing, both for them and the prisons. They are very, very wanting. The tools of trade, sometimes you find that the criminals are better armed than our police officers. We will make sure that the arms we buy are much more advanced, latest state of technology than what the criminals are using. And therefore, I want to say that it's an area that I'm very, very keen to address. It goes back to where I said earlier on that the police reforms is an area that is very dear to me, is an area that is very important to the country to be done, and is an area that I will give my #1 priority. Honorable Mishi, the drugs and narcotic and police abating crimes. Yes, this is a problem, and we'll actually be tackling this together with the various counties that are having the menace. But I had said earlier on that as we empower our police officers, and as we give them tools of trade, and as we improve their working environment, we also hold them accountable and responsible for their action. This is absolutely not meant to cause fears. It is meant to make people responsibility for the action they take. And also this is where the law comes in, because the law cannot be made in such a way that it protects some citizens and leave others. Even the police are our citizens. And therefore the law must be in such a way that it also protects them. The procurement of security equipment is shrouded in secrecy. I know that general procurement in government is an area of concern. I am aware that there is a law coming to Parliament for that area to be addressed legally. I want to say that we will do everything we can to try and eliminate the current corruption. Is a vice in our society, and it is in our midst, and we cannot run away from it. If it calls for us to remove some individuals from offices to break the vice, we will do that. we will use the legal ways to try as much as possible to make sure that this vice that is hurting our economy, hurting our country, and hampering the delivery of services is addressed, and we ask for the law to come from your end to be able to help us execute this. I will do this without fear or favor. The only thing I can do for now is to give you my word. When we get to the task, you will feel it, honorable members. Honorable Nyamoya, on the inspector asking for personal powers. This is an issue that members, I had given my take. I had said that we will be looking at the institution and not the individuals. We will be looking at ways to have the job done right, regardless of who does the job. I think it may be, I personally will say that, and I have said earlier that this conflict will be resolved. I said I'm even privy to some information that the law governing the same will be done. I want to assure that it's not going to be about Kafuludi or Kimayu. It is going to be about security for Kenya. The bigger picture is what I'm very keen on. The individual doing the job, just like me, will just be privileged to serve their country. Yes, you ask whether I left Utalii Hotel in good state. And I want to say this in front of all Kenyans. That when I went to Kenya Utalii College 5 years ago, Utalii Hotel was not a feasible entity. Utalii Hotel was paying their salaries and their suppliers using the allocation of money from the catering levy trustees. I say this, that as I leave the hotel now, the hotel has actually become one of the centers for government functions, including the big performance contract, which it had no capacity to do that before. We are now paying our salaries using the internally generated revenues. We are paying our suppliers using the same internally generated revenue, and we are contributing at Utalii Hotel to part of our capital expenditure. I have left now a prospering business. The hotel had not been renovated since 1976 when it is opened, and we did the renovation of all the rooms. We are building a state-of-the-art modern gym which will open in a month's time, and we have renewed a number of those facilities. If you visit now, and I request you to do, that is a good and usable hotel. Previously, it was used only as a laboratory for students training on hotel-related courses. Now, it is both a revenue-generating center, a place that generates money for the college, and providing the laboratory services it is mandated to do. With
Chair, probably before you finish, if you can, the money you have used for expansion, is it internally generated or it's from the exchequer?
The money we use for renovation is from the exchequer. The hotel was in such a bad state that it had no capacity to generate those resources at that time. The way it is moving soon, it will be completely independent of the exchequer. And that is why we have removed all the variable expenses that are now fully made by the hotel. We are only seeking some support on some major capital development. Honorable Abbas, I revisit the form number 20 and 23. I think I looked at the political office bit. Thank you. When I was filling this and I said public office, political activities and affiliation, I think I gave more concentration to the political activities. And so I request for your indulgence. Well, the docket is holding 26 functions, and where they have the capacity to do that. Honorable members, I want to bring to your attention that the government has collapsed 44 ministries into 18. We have some dockets like agriculture holding over 46 functions. And therefore, the issue whether I will have the capacity to do the 26, I made this commitment earlier, and members, my commitment stand, that I have what it takes and will have the job done. The 24-hour detention, whether it is ideal or not, I want members to bring your attention that this is an area that may require a more consensus and more stakeholders discussion. But I want to highlight that as we work on this, we want to concentrate more on having hardcore criminals and dangerous people to the community being put to prisons, and request or work very closely with the Office of the Chief Justice to utilize the probation service and community service as an area to handle minor offenders. Our current risk, the way we are straining resources, the congestion in the prisons, may request for us to consider other options other than having people confined to prisons. But I think this is something that requires a broader consultation, require some expertise, and require some consensus building as we develop a law to govern that. We go to Honorable Honorable Nelson, if I may use that name. And the issue
we may refer to his first name, Nelson. The other one may be a bit different.
Yes.
I assure you.
Thank you. Honorable Nelson is concerned about the drug barons, and previously the other my predecessors developed cold feet along the way. This commitment I gave earlier, that I have the courage, I have the commitment, I have the passion to do the job. Honorable members, I request you to give the green light, and the job shall be done. Hire rather than buy equipment and all that. We will use a business model to determine the suitability of hiring as compared to purchasing. And definitely our answer will be on a model that will be more effective, that will give us more value for our money and help us determine, help us attain our mandate. So I probably may be not in a position to say now whether it is hire or buy, but I want to say that it's going to be a scientific process to determine the most appropriate mode to use to be able to get value for money, get the services we want in a most cost-effective manner. Honorable Shaban. Illicit brews. Sorry, I didn't capture. There was something on illicit brews. I want to say that anything that affects the well-being of our country, be it in the form of illicit brews, be it in the form of drugs, we will not allow it to negatively affect us. Honorable Shaban, on the issue of our international boundaries and the marking, whether I have what it takes to do it, I have. And for now I can only say, take my word. I have seen that the ministry and the staff have, there are some plans to do this work. And actually this did not take effect because we got into an election period, and that is why it is stopped. Probably it is not about the issue of growing cold feet. It was probably an issue because this is something that touches on the other countries, it touches on us, and touches on a number of stakeholders. So sometimes to bring all the stakeholders to the round table may take some time, but it is one of the priorities for the ministries that my predecessors have set to be achieved, and it will be achieved. We are not at war with most of our neighbors. We encourage good neighborliness, and it should not be difficult for us to build consensus to make sure that we do the right thing. And so this is a doable job, and it will be done. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and wait for the next set of questions. Sorry, there's something on Honorable Cheboy on conditions of service for police. police reforms were started by started for some time back. And I would actually say that some good work has been done. These reforms sometimes were also hampered by very limited resources to do that. With the new allocation of more resources to this is an area we want to completely make sure that we completely sort it out. We recognize the need for providing an enabling environment for performance, whether at the police or anywhere. An enabling environment is critical. And that is why we are saying we must provide a safe environment for Kenyans to go about their businesses. For our police, their conditions of service were very well documented. It was just waiting financing. And therefore, these are being addressed under the police reforms, which I fully support. Thank you very much.
Very well, I think we have the last round for those who have not asked, but also for information of members of the general public. The matter as relating to how long a person may be held in custody before being presented before a court of law is a matter that is in our Bill of Rights in the Constitution, Article 49. And if you want to amend that, you know you require a referendum. So it's not a matter that I think we should, it's a matter we can discuss in a different forum. Let's hear the other members who have not asked questions. Honorable Jacob Midiwo, Honorable Shaban, Honorable Conchela, Honorable Muindi. Now I can see Jem. But I think before you get clarification, it's good for those who have not asked to also get a chance, isn't it? Possibly, you may get the clarification in the process. Midiwo.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me also weigh in a little bit. Joseph, you know, a lot of questions that we are asking you are probably those questions that need academic answers, because I tend to think many of them are academic. But I am that Kenyan who believes that we need to inject fresh blood from outside the entrenched systems, particularly in security, just like we did with Macharia in health. Because there's been a lot of talk out there that you cannot take somebody who is in hospitality industry and put them in charge of security sector. And I think it is very misinformed argument. But there are those questions which you need to address with us which are not academic. The issue of county commissioners have heard you refer. In fact, I wasn't even going to raise any question, but I've heard you a couple of times recognize the county commissioners, even though you have also said ahead of before that you are law-abiding. And these people have been condemned and have been told not to exist by the courts. And so that worries me that you need to be clear with us, because to want to take over such a powerful office and yet recognize a lawful and unlawful person would be a very dangerous thing. But I wanted also to further comment to you that the issue of the conflict between the IG and the Commission, Kavuludi and Kemayo, is a very fundamental issue that I admire that you say you are going to be consulting stakeholders. But I want to plead with you to recognize that the thing is taking an unnecessary political dimension. that the comments out there seems to be against the commission, I would plead with you that as we resolve this issue, because there are issues out there which are real, that the Inspector General can issue orders and a policeman runs to court. Those excesses needs to be taken care of. But I want you to understand why this commission was formed. It was formed primarily to inject civilian input in the police force, because Kenyans don't think the force has treated them well. I would hope that in this docket, because you have the intelligence under you, to sample the views of Kenyans. Because I think what the political class is trying to do may go against the wishes of Kenyans. And therefore, as you try to do something, I want to plead with you to create harmony rather than to try to victimize this commission, whose intentions I should think are very well good for the police force. I thank you.
Shaban.
Mr. Chairman, mine will be supplementary questions. On the issue of cattle rustling, in your answer, this question has been asked. I think you have not satisfactorily answered this question. Because you say that you will just, if you are given this docket, you will act and this thing will stop. It has not been able to stop since independence. And cattle rustling has been with us since that time. I thought you would have addressed this issue, that some of the reasons is that there has never been serious investments in this country. These are areas with the highest levels of poverty, illiteracy, where literacy rate is below 10%. And those young men are all roaming. Probably you would have addressed the issue of proliferation, also the issue of proliferations. You are talking about our neighbors, our neighboring countries, which are unstable or failed states, where with our porous borders, where the easy flow of arms. I would like you to address this issue specifically. What do you need to do to address this issue in the short term, the medium term, and long term, so that you don't address this issue very cautiously? It's a serious matter. It has not been able to be addressed by those people behind you, ahead of you. On the issue of drugs as well, I don't think you have also answered that question very correctly. Kenya is a major destination of drugs and narcotics. It's known all over in Africa and East Africa. This issue has not also been able to be addressed by those ahead of you, before you. And even with the high-profile ministers have not been able to address this issue. As a result of these drugs and narcotics, which is Kenya is a passage, many Kenyans have used it. It has raised the cost of our health services very immensely. And many Kenyans have died, many Kenyans in hospitals. What really specifically you need to do to ensure that these drugs, which is a killer in this country, is addressed once and for all? Probably you need to show the specific actions you need to take and address this issue, the seriousness that it deserves.
Gideon Conchela.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My concern is just to get your thoughts on the number of insecurity problem in the country. Now, the issue of refugees in camps, refugees in urban areas, now even in Mombasa, Nairobi. What are your thoughts on how you are going to manage this process? Because it is what you are talking about, draining our resources and causing a burden to our exchequer. And the problem of also human trafficking, because it is not just neighboring countries, but even our own. People are being trafficked for various reasons, as you know. And the issue of small arms also. The way it is coming in the country and causing security problem. How are you going to address this? I just hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Joseph. First, I want to congratulate you for your nomination to this important docket. I have two concerns which probably you need to convince us whether you definitely be able to deal with this ministry appropriately. First and foremost, I went through your documentation which you have supplied to us, and I've seen that you started as Serena, whereby you are earning quite substantial amount of money. Then you moved to David Livingstone, whereby the package went up. But I don't know what happened at David Livingstone. You decided to go to a lower pay to Tali, and probably you need a clarity on that. Secondly, is that you are getting to a docket whereby I've had my colleagues ask questions, and you are just putting them academically. This is not a docket of academics. This is a docket whereby it entails security of the entire Kenyans. And I wish to get from you and the public to know, are we going at the same trade as probably your predecessors, whereby Kenyans will have to wait for Jichopevu to tell them the actual truth? We have pending issues which probably may you need to address and give us clarity on them. There is death for Uko, there is death for Pyungamanda, there is death for Saitoti, there is death for Mutula. Please, we don't require rocket science. You require clear investigation. What is your take on this?
Jamla Kama, I hope that you may make it brief because we have really overshot our time. Not rocket science. Yeah.
Chair, even mine is a very quick one actually, and I want to first of all tell Lenku that I do like your courage and your confidence. And you have actually told us very nice things, that you're going to deal with this, you're going to ensure you deal with this, and so that we can trust you. But I want you to tell us, in case you get that nomination and you get the appointment, and things do not go the way you are telling us today, will you in the next 6 months be able to say, I have not managed and therefore I will resign? Just look through one of the cameras here and tell Kenyans that if you will not manage, you let it go.
For the time being, look straight at the chair. But feel free to also do as suggested by Honorable Jamle Kamau. On record, please. On record.
Sorry. Honorable members, Chairman, thank you very much. I want to thank Honorable Medio for highlighting the need for fresh blood. Thank you. I want also to just indicate that the issue of county commissioners, there is some case in court on the ruling that came about. So I kindly request that you would not allow me to very much divulge information on that. I had given a position on the AG and the National Police Service Commission, so it is an area we must resolve very expeditiously. Coming to Honorable Shaban concern on the cattle rustling and drugs and some specific action, I want to repeat what I said earlier. We have not used sufficient modern technology to address some of these problems. Technology is going to be one area that we are going to use to resolve cattle rustling problem. We were constrained on resources on handling the problems, including deployment. We are going as a specific measure to enhance deployment as an action will do. Of course, this is a big issue that involves even the international community, our neighbors and all that. We will do the necessary consultation to build consensus to handle it, but we will not have the fear to do our job. Absolutely no fear. Honorable Konjela, thank you for asking the questions of insecurity, refugees, and human trafficking and small arms. We have said that our insecurity we will address through resolving the current conflict between the Office of Inspector General and the Commission, through strengthening laws if we have areas where we feel our laws are not modern to cope with modern crimes, and through an improved resource allocation we are able to have our officers act more effectively. With regard to refugees, I think really it is time up for them to start going home. It is a program we will encourage, it is something we will support, and we will involve again the countries they came from to make sure that the refugees return home. They are putting unnecessary constraint on our resources, and it is very, very expensive for us as a country. It is a direction we want to take, and therefore we will take that position. Human trafficking and small arms, again we will collaborate with the international community, because this is an international problem also affecting us. We will look at the internal systems to make sure that our borders are well monitored, so that we do not have entry of illegal arms, and that people are not coming into our country without the prerequisite requirement from the immigration. And I think this is a good thing that the immigration and security are now together. Earlier on I indicated that we will use technology to manage our porous borders. Of course there will be areas where we will add additional border posts with the new allocation of resources. But I think really the key thing here is the use of technology to monitor our borders from any part from this country. Really, to me, technology is what we must bring into our security system. Honorable Mule, I thank you. My career movement, I have worked for 3 employers, and all of them have been strategic. The first 2 were private sector, and the last one is a public sector in Italy. Why I left a job in a lodge to take a government job is very strategic for my growth, my family convenience, and for many other possibilities that are within the government system. And therefore, it was a very well thought of move. I want to say that I'm really not being academic on these security issues. I have indicated very clearly that we will bring in technology to help us. I have indicated that we will buy modern equipment with the new allocation. I have indicated that we will hold our officers responsible for their own action. And I have said that I bring in a lot of energy and passion to this important docket. I have also said that we'll strengthen the intelligence gathering, so that we are ahead of the game. And we have the necessary input if the finances are right. Our officers were hampered by finances, and I had indicated, as we have all seen, the commitment of His Excellency that he really wants to strengthen here. So these things are tangibles. These are things that we can measure and say, what technology have you brought in? What deployments are strategic? What modern arms have you acquired, or modern equipments? How far have you gone on with the police reforms and housing and all that? These are things that are tangible and measurable, and will have timelines. Mr. Honorable Jamila Kamau, whether I can look you in the eye and say that I will not fail, I will. We will not fail. Kenya must succeed. We are the leaders in the region, we must be the leaders in Africa, and we must show the world that we can. And therefore, there is no possibility of failure in this case. Thank you.
Never mind. I want to take this chance to say I think we better come to a close. As indicated, we've gone beyond the time we intended to take with Mr. Lenku. Mr. Lenku, we thank you for your very candid discussion with the committee. I think we also want to look at you straight in the eye and tell you that you have a passion. You appear to have a passion, like what the Honorable Midio challenged you on. I think you seem to show a lot of passion for it. We thank you for your forthrightness and wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will release you.
Chairman, honorable members, I thank you very much.
That was the grilling of the nominee for Cabinet Secretary, Interior and Coordination of National Government, Joseph Ole Lenku.